Well, before you transition, what I would like to say is that I think is two things. There's this line of thinking that, well, these people must agree with the Breitbart, Donald Trump, and the Limbaugh types. It's like, sure, but they don't go through their lives actually speaking that way to people.
Totally.
Or behaving that way. But their capacity to stomach it is a lot bigger than, and even I, as a complete cynic about racism, because we got to stop using race relations, by the way. Because it's a one-way street.
I mean, look, I mean, frankly, I enjoy race relations.
You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
It's a one-way street. Racism, people's capacity to be able to stomach racism is a lot higher than even somebody like me would have thought. It's not that everybody walks outside and they want to punch blacks and Mexicans in the face just at the sight of them. No, but their stomach for the people who do is a lot higher than we originally thought.
And they stomach it because there's like a sort of natural appetite for people to sort of pathologically want to balance the equation. So we're talking about Jeremiah Wright earlier.
Yes,
so all they can say about this ban and stuff, I bet you go on, if you search Twitter for Jeremiah Wright now, it'd be all over there because people are like, well, what about Obama did this? And that's all you need. And then you skate past it.
Well, yeah, and the fundamental, and this is where, the lack of understanding how power works in this country is the other fundamental problem, because people just don't do asymmetries in this country, and you can't have a conversation on fairness until you're in a somewhat fair context. But look, I think that that's a perfect way of putting it, that if we look at this base of people that voted for Trump, it's going to run the gambit from absolutely an emboldened, racist, bigoted, misogynist, white supremacist wing that's represented by Steve Bannon. It's represented by the Klan, celebrating. That's absolutely clear. At the same time, I think it's very, very important, and this goes to this conversation on the real radical cleanup that we need in the Democratic Party, that the recognition that white supremacy is just look at the reality of this country, right? It was founded on settler colonialism, genocide, free labor from slaves, and then we had an apartheid system through the 60s, which was then only legally dismantled. So that's just reality. That's not like a polemic. That's just like, if you know what you're remotely talking about, that's the water we swim in. That's the context we're in. Okay, so we have that. At the same time, Barack Obama got more white votes than Hillary Clinton. Why? Undoubtedly, I think if we looked at, Charlie Pierce found, there's some kind of anecdotal evidence of some people that are like in the Alex Jones zone of so far out of having any type of sort of relationship to empirical reality that that's hard to approach. Then there's the expression
I had
of
some thoughts on that.
Well, we'll get back to that. I just want to set these three categories up. Then there's and this was shown in the fact that, look, white people, and it wasn't just poor working class white people. The median Trump voters' income, I think, is $72,000. It's not income.
Economic anxiety, man.
No, that's there too, but in a different way than it's being presented. But the big other message was like, look, we have said, and if you've listened to someone like Sam for years, way before any of us, again, were even doing this, anybody that was being honest about Republican Party said Republican Party is the party of white identity politics. Period. And no one wanted to be, that's unfair, and This is what it is. That's why Republican women voters didn't flip the way it was speculated they would, the way the Clinton campaign built that stupid campaign strategy on, the way, all the rest of it, because it is about, and then you had someone who spoke unabashedly to that, and it won. Now, the third thing is, and there is a Jad Kolko report on this in Nate Silver's website. The Trump vote was stronger where the economy is weaker. And I'm just going to read a couple quotes from this. Last month, leading up to Tuesday's vote, experts debated how much Trump's support was driven by economic anxiety or by racism, xenophobia, or other factors. The reasons are not mutually exclusive. I don't know how many times that can be underlined. In fact, it's vitally important that we recognize they're not mutually exclusive, because we have to fight all of the right battles simultaneously. the debate will continue long into Trump's presidency, but county-level voting results suggest that economic issues underpinned at least some of Trump's support. And he goes basically into just a few more sort of numbers that I'll read. Actual election results saw no correlation between counties' September 2016 unemployment rates and the level of support for Trump. Places with higher unemployment rates are no more likely to vote for Trump than those with lower rates. That feeds that this is about white identity and bigotry, no doubt. Unemployment, however, this is skipping ahead, is a crude measure of local economy. The government's official definition of unemployment ignores people who've stopped looking for work and have moved away altogether, and it doesn't distinguish between a full-time job at a factory and a part-time job at a fast food restaurant.
Right.
Measures that do account for these factors generally suggest a stronger relationship between economy and Trump's support. Counties with weaker job growth since 2012, for example, were more likely to support Trump. Moving ahead to my last quote. Economic anxiety about the future is not just economic anxiety is about the future, not just the present. Trump beat Clinton in counties where jobs are at risk because of technology or globalization, particularly counties with the most quote-unquote routine jobs, those in manufacturing, sales, and clerical works, related occupations that are easy to automate or send offshore, were more likely to vote for Trump. So there's raw disinformation, racism, white nationalism, and bigotry, which we were profoundly stupid to take our eyes off the ball on, and a serious economic anxiety of which neoliberalism has nothing, at least message-wise, to say. And even to the extent to which Hillary has moved to the left, and that was fine and that was nice, the reality is that the modern democratic project has offered very little to nothing for these people. And actually, in fact, I hear people today talking in my neighborhoods, in my bubble, like, we just need, because the message was so simple and so stupid, we need a simple and stupid message for those stupid people.
No.
Yeah. So anyways, break down those three kind of variables.
In particular, when it comes to these Obama people who flipped Trump,
Yeah.
I thought about it and I was like, well, if you put Barack, you put Trump, you put Romney and McCain and Hillary in a box, three of those things are like the other, right? Like,
yeah.
I kind of poo-pooed that idea of the outsider, but Barack in 2008 was pretty much an outsider. He wasn't in Washington for that long.
The brand was outsider, for
right.
sure.
And Trump obviously has never been anywhere near the government before. So, he's I guess the biggest. And I guess I poo-pooed that because it's just like, come on.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Right.
And as you said about the neoliberal message that they're selling to voters, it's just not going to work if you're not also backing it with the other carrot, which is white supremacy, systemic racism, and things like that. If you don't have either one of those, at least Trump is offering them something that they can go home and hug at night.
Well, that's why this is global. Because
Right.
this is the story of our time. Where do we see Brexit? The far right is rising and winning elections across Europe because again, none of this stuff is as simple as we want it to be. But if the basic lesson is that left parties have turned into Davos meritocratic parties that have a good and important message on social inclusion, but have nothing to say about monopolies, are no problem with corporations. Yeah. No modern democratic president has done anything really serious on inequality. Then what else do you have? And then in the Republican Party, finally we can dispel the fantasy that like, oh yeah, there's normal Republican voters that really have no problem with Mexican or gay people, but they're just so worried about giving the Koch brothers tax cuts. So both elites and both parties, their delusions and fantasies have been shook. And unfortunately, they weren't shook by a noble old Jewish socialist. Right. They were shook by a clown fascist.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Subscribe.